Hi, this is Laura Lively with Payments Ed, and I am very excited. Today we are talking with one of our advisor companies, Vindicia. Make them stick with one click, how intelligent engagement keeps your customers. And I'm excited for our panelists today. I'm going to have them probably introduce themselves. But I have Nelson, yes, is with us from Vindicia, and then Rajeev. So if you guys can actually, I forgot to tell you we're going to do that, surprise. Let's have you guys introduce yourself and then we'll kick off with the panel discussion.
Sure. Thanks, Laura. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nelson Veiga. I have the privilege and honor to run Vindicia's enterprise business in the Americas. Vindicia is a company laser focused, maniacally focused on subscription lifecycle management and all aspects of that. And again, I run the Americas business, and I've been in the software business since the beginning of time. So hopefully we'll convey some actionable insights. Having been in both operations and technical aspects of software companies, I know that it's important to go to these sessions to be able to pull something actionable and insightful that you can actually put to work in your business. And I thank you for the opportunity.
And I'm right behind Nelson in being here since the dawn of time. I'm Rajeev Raman. I'm the founder and CEO of Redfast. We're a startup technology company completely focused on this customer experience, how to develop engagement, how to boost retention, which we know is a very, very thorny problem in the industry and sort of impacts so many facets, which I think many of which we're going to get into today. But like Nelson, I've been in the technology industry for many, many years, mostly as an entrepreneur. This is my 5th enterprise. Very, very excited to be here. And Nelson and I have spent, many, many meetings and calls and undertakings together. So I couldn't be more excited to do it with him. So thank you.
I know this is going to be great content. We have a good third of our merchants are subscription based. So, and I think more and more people are turning to that as we've, moved into the pandemic that we are still in at the time of this recording. And so I'm sure this will be great content and I'm really excited. I would also like to point out, you all say you've been here since the beginning of time. Why am I the only one with gray hair? I don't get it.
I have lots of gray hair. Trust me, I got my share. Yeah.
And you have none.
So I win.
Nelson's like, it would be nice to have hair.
It would be.
So as you guys can tell, this is a little different format for us. We're doing panelists and we're all on camera and we're excited to we're excited to be here with you today. And so I guess the first question I'm going to toss out really, Nelson, to let you kick it off is, what are the desired business outcomes or benefits that companies are trying to address by improved engagement?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to share a slide because I have a number of points that I want to convey on that area. If you could just validate for me that you do see the slide for me, Laura?
It's up.
Okay, awesome, great. Guys, just like I was saying, I came from an operational background. I was actually a CEO of a software company for a couple of years, and I know that any investment that is made, whether it's on an operational side, people side, technology side, it's very important to drive some sort of business outcome. So I wanted to kind of convey, we're going to get into a lot of the what's behind the technology, what is it, how does it work with the customers and so forth, the subscribers. But I wanted to start with something. What's the compelling reason why these investments are being made by thought-leading companies? So I just thought I'd put together something graphical, not textual, to be able to convey that. It really comes down into 6 major categories of desired positive business outcomes that are driving initiatives, driving investments in the area of engagement. So let me just quickly take you through them. I promise I won't take too long on this, but and I've broken it down granularly rather than high level sort of things. These are tangible subscription lifecycle management business types of outcomes that are actionable for you, and will give you an insight into why some of the other customers are doing it. Well, just to start off, trial conversions. In the subscription world, it's super important to take those free trial users and convert them into paying subscribers. That is one of the categories. Trial conversions, trial subscription conversions, shorter trials, bigger average revenue per user is one of the big ones. Also registration, that is to encourage sign up during relevant actions. And Raj will get into some of this stuff in terms of cross sells and upsells or engaging on the registration side. Next up, increased usage. Engagement, by definition, the word lends itself to usage and usage of the content, and so forth. So increasing usage, that it increase the use of premium features is another important business outcome. So trial conversions, registration, increasing usage, very, very important. The next category would say things like, it's not just about retention, but also about growing your revenue. So engagement technology, especially Redfast, is extremely powerful in being able to drive premium upsells. That is, boost membership to premium plans by making them aware of different elements, details, content, features within the subscriptions that are available. Next up, win back. If something goes wrong with the relationship, or they fail to maybe see the value in for some reason, win back is another extremely important element in business outcomes that Redfast and engagement is really focused on. And then lastly, it's increasing awareness. That is, to build awareness of the content. All of us know the more aware you are of features, benefits, wow, I didn't know it did that. Those capabilities are things that keep people engaged, and you've got to create awareness, and engagement technology platforms like Redfast drive those. So just to quickly summarize, trial conversions, increasing registrations, increasing usage, premium upsells and cross sells, also being able to enhance your win back capabilities, and also increasing awareness of the depth and breadth of your products are all positive business outcomes that are compelling reasons for these investments and these initiatives that we've seen with our customer base.
And I want to add just a couple of thoughts, or actually build on what Nelson just said with this point about awareness at the very end here. You know, engagement. I mean, let's set aside the financial metrics for a moment. Let's forget about LTV, all other things, which trust me, we're not going to forget. But just for a moment, hold that thought, right? Engagement turns out to play also a very crucial role in brand building, in brand development, in recall. So when you send that email, you know, the customer has a better connection and a higher likelihood of doing something with that email that they received from you. But let me go in a different direction. Even things like support, right? I mean, if you've ever been to an Apple store and stood in line and see the number of people waiting in line at the Genius Bar for their turn to have their device serviced or repaired, no one's mad. Everyone seems perfectly calm. And yet, on most online experiences, the first thing you get in a lot of cases when the customer comes on is a sense of frustration. And what's the difference between these two outcomes, right? The difference between these two outcomes is a company that builds on engagement, is building on that relationship where you spend time with me, therefore, you know, I've sort of earned that place. And that just leads to much better outcomes, and not just in the very tangible things that Nelson has outlined, but there's a whole bunch of intangibles that it impacts as well.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And then just the one last thing, since we've mentioned these 6, and there's obviously more, but these are like, call it the greatest hits of positive business outcomes, for lack of a better term. But then at the end of the day, if you're going to be driving these types of outcomes, which by the way drives investment, nobody is going to invest a penny in anything unless they're going to get some sort of tangible benefit like I've got here identified. You're going to need some key capabilities, and I'm not going to go into all gory detail because I think Rajeev is going to do an extremely good job of surfacing those things for us. But okay, if you have one or more of these business outcomes that you're trying to drive, you go, great, Nelson, what do I do about it? What do I do about it? Well, you're going to have some key capabilities to be able to do that. For instance, you're going to be able to monitor changes in individuals' behaviors or subscribers' behavior to indicate leading indicator if they're a great upsell or cross-sell candidate, or even potentially get in front of a potential churn situation. Being able to also target certain behavior changes with information in terms of the application journey, guidance, as we're just kind of touching on here lightly, being able to deliver guidance across multiple platforms to guide the customer through the customer journey, as a lot of our customers are starting to refer to this to, and then conversion, like a one-click sort of paradigm to be able to drive those business outcomes. So I think I've done an adequate job here of trying to quickly surface business outcomes, four high-level key capabilities that are required to drive those outcomes. So Laura, I'd throw it back to you.
Great, that was a great intro, and I guess kind of like setting the table stakes, I feel like. So is it generally, and maybe this is to you, Rajeev, is it generally accepted that engagement is the key to lasting customer satisfaction? And how do you even define engagement?
This is a good question because engagement is one of those terms where everybody feels like they know what it means, but not many people can sort of put a finger on it and say, I've got a good engagement. Like, it's hard to know what's good, what's not good, when is it working, when is it not working, right? So let me do it with some examples. Let's say that you and I both have a subscription to Netflix. I have kids; they tend to watch a lot of TV. Maybe we use it 4 or 5 times a week, and it's an hour and a half each time. Maybe you only go there 2 or 3 times a week, and you watch an hour at a time. Both of us are actually perfectly happy being where we are and paying the $12 or $13 to Netflix. Nothing is making you think like I'm not getting value out of this, and nothing is making me think that I'm not getting value out of this, right? So here is a classic case of how you define engagement, because all that's important is me relative to me and you relative to you. It's not me relative to you. I'm not a better customer than you are for the purpose of what we're each taking away. So what does that mean? So how do you then go boil that down and say, what's engagement? Well, I'll give you sort of the technical definition, right? The simple way to think about engagement is just basically visits times minutes. How often is someone coming to your store, right? Your online presence, and how long are they spending each time that they come there, right? So now if you say, hey, I came there, let's take a physical world. I say you have a store in a mall, if someone's coming to your store every week, you see them every week and they're there for half an hour at a time. What does that tell you? I mean, it tells you that there's a really good likelihood this person's going to buy something from me, right? Same thing in online. Is no more mysterious than that. The more often people come to you, the longer they stay, the more you can leave all the stuff out in the middle. What did they buy? When did they buy? How much did they spend? What you can be sure about is if those 2 things are true, there will be good positive business outcomes on the other side of it. So simplest way, that's how I define engagement. But I think that's table stakes. I think the game has shifted, especially with the big companies, the big e-commerce vendors, and the big subscription merchants online, to where that's not sufficient. You can't just look for that anymore. Now you have to connect your unique value proposition to those same visits and minutes. What do I mean by that, right? Let's say that you are, this hypothetical fitness company. It's really born out of cycling. You want people to do the cycling. You have the best cycling workouts, and let's say my company is called Schmelaton, right? So if I'm Schmelaton and I'm seeing you come to me every week, but you're not cycling, right? You're doing something else. You're spending the time with me, right? You're coming off and you're not taking cycling away. Well, here's where engagement now needs to be a sharp tool and not just a blunt instruments of visits times minutes. Now you got to make sure that if I'm coming to you, that I'm actually able to take something away that's connected to your USP, your unique value proposition, that I did take some cycling away. Because why? Because at that point, that engagement's meaningful. You're not a drive-by. You're not just sort of passing through here. This applies whether it's subscriptions or commerce, right? If you're all about sweatshirts and that's your main thing, but you have all this other lifestyle stuff going on, if people aren't taking away what your core value is about at some point in their journey with you, it doesn't have to be the first time, doesn't have to be every time. You kind of need to make sure that's happening. So that's how that's how I define engagement. I'd say, it's not only how often and how long, but it's also what are they taking away from you? And is it the thing that you are really about?
Nelson, anything to add?
Yeah, actually, I was going to add, there's not a whole lot to add to that. It's a brilliant description of engagement. But I will tell you this, just to kind of take it back to the business side, is that engagement is now something that I hear about because customers are coming to me confidentially saying, I'm having trouble with competitiveness. there's a lot of noise in my industry. There's too many new entrants. There's too many new offerings. And I'm a legacy sort of provider that has always had a really good relationship with my subscribers, so now I'm kind of getting lost in the noise. So if you don't measure engagement, you could easily lull yourself into a false sense of security and find yourself one day with goodbye, right? So it's important to get out in front of that, measure it proactively, tweak it, and continuously look at it, because you don't want to be surprised. Preemptively measure so you don't get surprised on the downside. And as Rajeev was just pointing out, is identify other areas that you could bring value to your subscriber so you remain relevant, keep that high level of engagement, and also introduce potential growth channels into your business.
That makes total sense. All right, another question. I have a lot of anonymous users. How do I go about understanding engagement?
Well, look, the trick, I would say, is to shift away from who the person is to what they are doing. And what I mean by that, just to sort of go a little deeper into it, is if you understand the behaviors that a person is expressing on your site or in your app, that's frankly all you really need in order to do a better job of servicing them, more than knowing this is Rajeev, this is Nelson, or anything very specific about the person, right? Again, I'll map it back to the world of retail, right? If you walk into a store, they don't know you by name. The person's probably never seen you before. What they're trying to do is look and see, what are you trying to take away from your visit this time? Are you into jeans, or are you into that? And if you're into that, then let me see if I can help you with that thing that you're about. That's behavior, right? That's me saying, that's you understanding that I'm interested in X, and you responding as the host to say, can I help you with X? That's got nothing to do with identity. That's got nothing to do with knowing me or putting a cookie or following me around the internet. It's just a lot more meaningful from the merchant to the customer when you're able to say, hey, I noticed, I don't know who you are, but I noticed, you haven't checked out my cycling. Can I show you some cycling, right? Because I think we're really good at it, right? Like, everybody says we're really good at it. You should have a peek at it too. That's a very meaningful way to do it. And so technologically, what we've done with our platform is make it just as powerful to work with anonymous users as it is with registered users. And that's not easy to do. And certainly it's a new capability. Not a lot of people can do that, but it does make it so that you're able to address both kinds of customers, customers who have an account with you, and more importantly, taking the trouble to log in and be registered when they come to you, as well as the ones who are just there. This also sort of raises another important point in my head, which I think is important to share with the audience here, which is, as we talk about engagement, I'll bet that some in the audience are thinking, I already do that. I get a report that says, how long people have stayed. But here's what you don't have. What you have is the aggregate insight. What you have is that you have 1 million people who showed up this month, and the 1 million people, came on an average, 3 times this month and spent on an average 6.7 minutes each time. That's not what we're talking about, because that actually tells you nothing. That just tells you overall how many servers to buy, in my opinion. It doesn't actually tell you how to run your business. How to run your business actually comes from that example we shared at the outset, where the difference between your Netflix subscription and my Netflix subscription, right? You need that level of insight. So it has to be individual. This engagement understanding has to happen on a per user basis. It has to happen at the individual level. You have to recognize that for me, 5 times a week is the norm, and for you, 3 times a week is the norm. And as long as we're both exhibiting normal behaviors, life is good as the merchant. You are doing your job in keeping them happy. If mine is going down from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 week over week, well, hey, maybe it's time to sit up and take notice, which you would never be able to do if you just sort of rolled everything up, right? If you roll up all the data and you look at it once a month, it's, that's not super helpful, right? I mean, this is also where I would say it's useful to, in your head, sort of differentiate the concept of monitoring behavior from analytics, right? Monitoring is being told that someone is breaking into your house, right? Analytics is being told at the end of the week that your house is broken into 3 times. One lets you do something about it. It's happening now. What would you do about it? The other is giving you awareness that you might need to do overall work to improve your security. So they both have their place, but my experience, and I think Nelson will echo my comments as well, what we've seen where the big gains come in returns, where people are able to see these double-digit conversions, sometimes as high as 50%, in areas that most CFOs would call found money, right? Comes from understanding this individual connection with behavior, whether it's anonymous or registered. If you can understand what they're doing and how they're doing it on your site and in your app, and respond to that, I think you have all the same opportunities as someone who gets their user to log in and has this rich, long history of of correlated visits against a username or an ID.
So questions come in about that. For years, merchants have been told that it's important to understand the demographics of their users. So what would you say to that? Like, do you need to know that I am, living in the middle of the US and I'm 54 years old? I mean, do you need to know all that, or does that not matter? Is that not going to change that I only watch Netflix 3 times a week?
Good question. Look, I can't say it doesn't matter. Everything, all of that information matters. Or very simply put, the more you know about the person, the more useful it is. But the difference here is not necessarily knowledge, it's what you do with the information, right? So I'm in the Midwest and I'm so-and-so. What is it that's changing about your offering to me because you know that, right? And this is where everybody falls flat. Everybody wants to collect the information. Everybody wants to put these big programs together to create CDPs and universal customer profiles and, just create this massive insight into who this person is. The question is, if you're blind to the fact that I'm looking for jeans, but you happen to know, I'm 48 years old and I live here and I make so much money and I reside in this zip code and I have a dog and it's irrelevant. You still got to get out there and help me with my immediate need. And nothing shows what that immediate need is like my action. If I'm coming to your site and I'm just clicking and searching and clicking and searching, but not actually able to fulfill the goal that I came with, all of that other demo information is not useful. Where that demo information can be really useful is connecting your unique value proposition with your audience, right? Every business, including ours, starts out with a thesis about what is special about you and who is your ideal customer, right? Everyone goes through that. A lot of times it turns out just like that, as in perhaps the Schmelathon case, but there are many times where it probably doesn't. And this is where you can connect the two pieces together. You can say, yes, my target audience were women in this age group looking for these types of fitness and health objectives. Wellness is as important as health, and here's the whole package that I'm trying to serve. And you have a thesis, you have a demographic, you have an audience, and you join the dots and you go, yes, what I set out to do is what I'm doing, until you find out that it's mostly men and it's not women, and they're here primarily for the physical fitness and not the health part. That's where these things can kind of shine that spotlight for you. But by and large, I would say if it's not actionable, there's no point collecting it.
You know what? I would agree with that. I think that people get confused a little bit about all that demographic data, Laura. And honestly, the reality is, would you personally be willing to give some merchant all that information about you without really knowing them or having a relationship with them? I wouldn't.
No.
No, you got to earn that right. You got to earn that right. And that right is earned through providing value, having a longer term relationship, and you being cognizant then of that to earn the right. And under the premise that you're trying to serve them better. So I think a lot of that demographic information, Raj, Rajeev hit it right on the nose. And that is, if you have a premise in your business, you define who you're going to be true to self. You're going to go out and you're going to market to those folks. It may be in that demographic. We're solving a different sort of, not business problem, but a different sort of business initiative. And that is, when they interact with you, we're going to help you get better, faster, smarter at engaging them, being able to understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, how long they're doing it, so you can guide their journey to be a higher value situation. That in turn will drive all those high level business outcomes that I'm talking about. The one thing that I'm maniacal about, especially in some of the roles that I've had, is a bunch of data is really not interesting to me. It's just a bunch of data. It's what insights come out of that data. If I could just make a 2%, 3%, 4% increase or impact on one of those things, it turns into magic. And I'm telling you right now that one of the things that I am blown away by on the Redfast technology platform is that how it makes our customers, I don't want to say smarter, let's just say more agile, more able to react and proactively engage things before they become a problem and take advantage of opportunities that without this type of platform, they wouldn't be able to take advantage of.
We had a question come in that's going to maybe throw a little monkey wrench in, so let's do it, right? In a world of peak content and short attention spans, isn't attention better than engagement?
I can take that. I have a little background noise, but it should go away in a minute if you guys are picking that up. Well, I mean, attention and engagement, I mean, why are they different things? I mean, attention and engagement are, in my opinion, sort of two sides of the same coin here. Attention is the instantaneous engagement you have with someone, and the extent of attention you have over time with that person is what becomes engagement. Of course, you can say, hey, look, if you're selling a point solution, so let's take YouTube. Great example, right? It's a company that's actually built on this concept of attention, right? Or frankly, lack thereof, right? Which is, hey, I got this 30-second video that someone told me about and sent me a link to that's got me completely wrapped in for that 30 seconds. What do you do after those 30 seconds? You're gone, right? That's it. They built an entire business singularly on just that little sliver of attention that they have from you. They eventually ended up in a massive engagement business. How? Not by steadily building on that 30 seconds. They didn't say, oh yeah, you like that skateboarding video, let me try to get you more into this loop. They got there simply through the viral effect of a series of 30-second videos that are being sent to you by your friends and family members week after week, day after day, sometimes multiple times a day. So they got there. They didn't have to sort of, crawl like the rest of us do to build engagement, because we're only offering one thing. They have this benefit of a user-generated platform where this diversity is abound. If you're in the business of a fitness subscription service or a media entertainment service or, a newspaper service or, you name it, anything that where you have a theme and you're trying to build on that theme, you're trying to create an identity associated with that theme, you're in the album business, you're not in the singles business at that point, right? So you got to really think about what are you doing that's going to keep that user seeing the depth of what you have as opposed to the surface. I mean, this is at least how I would think about the difference between attention and engagement.
It actually kind of like leads into the next question, which is, why is customer engagement so underinvested in by leading streaming companies, especially when there are over 450 streamers and there's really only top 3 that are dominating in the world?
Money. I'll tell you why. Well, look, as long as it is possible to spend money on user acquisition, it's easy to turn a blind eye to engagement. right? Because you have a department that's responsible for user acquisition, typically your marketing or your growth teams, and you have a GM or a business owner who's essentially looking at the net. He or she is looking at how many came in and how many left in a given period of time. As long as that difference between the two numbers is higher than it was the last month they looked at it, they don't really care how they got there. So, and you look at it from an effort standpoint inside the business. If what I have to do is acquire a budget, and acquire some marketing tools and some venues where I have some productivity in terms of spending my money and getting paid users to come through. You don't have to use your brain very much for that. It's a system, it's a process. You can keep doing it. You can put more money and expect more results. Yes, it's true. It's getting more expensive and less efficient with each week that goes by. There's more competition for it, as you pointed out. But it's always the easier answer. The customer experience business, it actually involves you to confront some very meaningful questions about the nature of your service. When you know what people or a person is actually doing or not doing or taking away or not taking away with what think of the marketer as a person that stands on the street corner telling people to come into the store, right? That's what the marketer is. Now the person's at the entrance to the store. They're about to step inside to your site or app. Now they come in. First, there's no one from your company there, right? There's no one there that says, hey, let me show you around. Here's what I got. Customer comes in, they're looking around and saying, what is this? What is that? This is the place where you have to connect and then say, well, are you taking away what I am about or not? And so that's a much harder problem because now you have to answer the question, well, I'm about cycling. And let's go back to that example. You haven't taken that away. What am I to do? What's the remedy? What do I need to be doing? Is that the responsibility of the marketing team? Is that the responsibility of the product management team? Does that sit with the content programming or the editorial team? Who's actually responsible for guiding this customer through a successful experience with me? These expose more, sort of deep, meaningful, and difficult questions inside businesses, which is why it is oftentimes easy to just spend the money to get the users and not be staring at the exit door and seeing who's leaving and why. I don't know, Nelson, if you have additional thoughts, but look, I feel like
I think that's spot on. But I'm going to give you a very easy answer also, Laura. It's hard.
Right?
It's hard
exactly.
It's hard to do. And I
can't throw the money at it, and it's hard. I came out of a customer experience and fraud background when I was in corporate America, when I was a merchant, and you're absolutely correct. It is hard to do.
It's hard to do. Let me take it a step further. Investment, because I've been angling hard on the investment side. So one of the most constrained resources in any company are developers, right? So whenever you're going to kick off an initiative that involves a developer, you better be crystal clear as to what you want to do. And if you're a marketer or a product person and you're not quite sure, you're not going to spin up a bunch of cycles about then go, I don't know exactly what I want, but I know when I see it, right? And on top of that, it's going to be iterative. And oh, by the way, I'm going to change my mind and then have to go back to developers and going to look at you and go, come on, man, figure out what you want to do and we'll make it happen, right? Platforms like this democratize that capability, right? You can iterate, you could try, you could fail, you could say, hey, this is the context that I'm after, and it's intuitive in nature. So what Rajeev and his team have done is taken something super complex, sort of eliminated the need for developers to be involved, and allow business people and marketers to think big and do big. And oh, by the way, if they get it wrong the first time, so what? It's easy to change. And oh, by the way, the other thing that makes it hard, hang on, it's multi-platform. You've got to be able to do it on phones, iPads, tablets, TVs, whatever the situation may be, multi-platform. By the way, let's not forget desktops and things of that nature. So you take all that complexity, it's hard, it's iterative. You as a marketer or product person, unless it's the product you're trying to develop to help you, you're not going to go to IT with it. And if you do, they're going to really give you a hard time because it's hard to do. So you got to be clear. That's why it hasn't been embraced, because it's been hard to do.
I'd like us to kind of shift focus. We've talked a little bit about engagement and engagement versus attention. Can we spend a few minutes talking about the importance of one click? Nelson, do you want to kick off with that?
Yeah, well, it kind of dovetails on what I was just saying. If you make anything difficult for a user, they're not going to do it. You have to get to the end zone, or the thing you're trying to accomplish. The panacea, the perfect state is one click. If you have them going through click, 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 they're not going to go through it. People have short attention spans. Their time is precious. So you got to make it simple. And doing what you want them to do in one click, or you're offering to do for them in one click, is the target. Because anything that passes the 1 or 2 clicks, you're getting in a situation where people are just going to abandon the flow. Simple.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would also say this, Laura, that look, there are online businesses that have completely nailed this concept of one click. And I'll start with the second most successful business that has nailed that. I'll leave the first one off for various reasons. Dating sites, they do such an amazing job because they know, they're very single-minded, that if I don't get this deliverable from my side to you within this click, that you're probably going to lose interest with me. So, there's another side to this one click, which is when it's more than one click, right? As not one click, you're really exposing the weaknesses of your architecture to the customer, right? And what I mean by that is there's really no reason what a customer is trying to do can't be done with one click. I'm gonna give you a few examples, right? Let's say you're in the media business and you have this nice grid of thumbnails on your home screen, and I find a thumbnail that's interesting and I click on it. If I click on it, it should start playing right away. We can do this now. Most people do this. And yet you'll find many sites which don't do that, right? They'll go one in and go, are you really sure? Let me show you a bigger version of the same image you saw. Let me put the same text you saw on the previous screen, and I'll make you click again. Okay, maybe you have your reasons for it. I'm not going to second guess it. But at least in this very simple example, we know what one click means going from start to finish. Now the user is sitting back watching. That's what they came to do, right? Now I'm trying to upgrade my plan, going from my base plan to, say, an annual plan. Well, why do I have to crawl through glass to get there? Why do you have to ask me 20 times? I mean, if I have said, yes, this is what I want, and then now what's happening on many places is that they have a billing system A and another user management system B, and all these systems are all getting woken up the minute this user is now in this upgrade cycle, and now I have to follow you along as your architecture takes me from here to there. That's what I mean by saying that you're exposing the limitations of your back end. And this is where the work that Vindicia and Redfast have done, both the engineering teams have spent a lot of time just basically saying this shouldn't be the way. If you're using a Vindicia-based subscriber management system and you're using Redfast, this has been our promise to our customers, mutual customers, is that with this one-click approach, you can get much better outcomes. We all know the minute there's one more step between the user and the outcome, well, that's a 40–50% drop. It's never been, it's rarely less than that. And sometimes it's more than that. Are you okay with having 2 steps and then losing 2/3 of the people who started at the front to getting to the back? Why are you doing this to yourself? This should not have to be the way.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, Rajeev. Thank you for touching that, because I think that, Laura, that's where you see the synergies in the ecosystem. That sounds kind of nerdy, but the reality is that if you've got, in this case, as Rajeev was talking about, an engagement platform and a subscription lifecycle management system working together, subscription lifecycle management, i.e. billing, subscription billing, can serve up data for the targeting and vice versa. Rajeev said, yes, great, one click, let's manifest those changes into what he's subscribing to, and let's be done with it. We've added value, we've done our job. Let's not, I love that paradigm, by the way, drag them through glass. I'm gonna borrow that one, Rajeev. That one made me hurt as you were describing it. Not that I've ever been dragged through glass, but it's easy to imagine what it would feel like. So having a synergistic sort of an integrated ecosystem, it delivers a ton of value.
I can see that. I want to circle back to something that was on your slide earlier, Nelson. Because I know this has come up in so many sessions that I've sat in at Payments Ed with merchants. Should I just let dormant paying users be? There has certainly been, conventional thinking is don't get in front of them, because if you do that, then they're going to be like, oh, I don't really need this service and I'm going to get rid of you. So how would you respond to that? How do you, make sure that you're staying in front of what's happening with that user so that you don't lose them, and address
Right.
the fears of, oh my God, I don't want to lose them by bringing attention to myself?
Yeah, look, and I've heard that very much. I heard it a lot pre-COVID in some of the trade shows and seminars that we go through. Is some of folks out in the industry call them zombie users, that they just keep paying you. They don't know why. They just keep doing it because they're on auto pay and so forth. I think, look, shame on me if I said, oh, no, go interrupt everybody. I think it could prove to be a little negative, but let's not forget what we're saying here is that you can monitor engagement without having to necessarily do something about it, right? You're collecting intelligence, telemetry data. If you don't see somebody visiting your site, you're kidding yourself if you think that those folks are not gonna give you some bad news sooner or later, right? So if you don't see them engage, or if you see it dropping, yes, you should, at a minimum, measure it and be prepared to do something about it, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, go in there, a subscriber that hasn't visited your site, go out there and pound them and so forth. But I think it's important, if you want to stay relevant and you want to continue to have a long-term relationship with that, you could grow your engagement with them, you have to measure it and you should be proactive about it, because if not, you're likely going to be interrupted by them with see you later, bye, and it'll be too late then.
Yeah, well, I exactly correct, and I feel, Laura, that this let sleeping dogs lie is it's an old way of thinking. I get it. I get it when you spend money to acquire a customer and they're paying you a subscription fee but not using it. There's kind of the temptation to think that, wow, this is all fad. This is why I did it in the first place. But look, ultimately, you have to decide for yourself whether you're in the leaky bucket business or you're in the business of building. Sorry, these keep coming, don't they? I had a boss when my very first boss.
Analogies are killing me. I love it.
I'll explain. I'll explain myself. I was 20 some years old. It was my very first job, first out of college. And I had this boss who I owe such a great deal of everything that I've been able to do since too. And I tell you, he couldn't go 2 sentences without a metaphor thrown in there. And I don't know why. It's had such a big impact on me. Like now I find myself in a very similar situation. So that's where these are coming from. So, props to Rich if he's ever listening. But anyway, so you have to decide if you're in this business of saying, I don't care what people do, as long as I get more money back on the user than I spent to get them, I'm making a business. If that's your definition of building a business, then yeah, you should leave sleeping users sleep. You should absolutely do that because that's your MO. But if you are thinking that you're in business for a reason, that you have a brand, you have a unique value proposition, and you want to earn the customer's business, and you're willing to work to earn the customer's business, and better still, the positive side, if a customer could understand what was truly special about you, that their life would be so much better with you and them having met. If you have that orientation about your business, that, yeah, I'm this wellness and meditation company. I know there's 100 of them out there, but my founder has had this very unique approach to how to build wellness through meditation. And I know that if you experience just a couple of sessions, with our founders' videos or guidance, like your life will be so much better. And I will feel better for having made somebody's life better as a business. If you're coming at the world from that lens, then you absolutely cannot let
sleeping dogs lie. You have to get in there and understand, because when they're not engaging, you have to look at it as a failure on your part. Now, certainly I would say there are a percentage of use cases where it's no fault of yours that the user is not engaged, right? Life happens, people move, personal circumstances change, any number of things can happen. And I agree, those are situations that there is no appropriate remedy from your side that you can sort of step into the middle with. But I think it's conflating matters when you use that as an excuse for not getting in. So I think still the division is very basic. You have to decide if you're like, hey, LTV minus acquisition cost is positive, and I'll just keep spending that $2 every day until I get $3 back for every $2 I spend, then yeah, you're right. Then just keep doing that. But on the other hand, if you're like, no, listen, I don't just want the $1. That seems wrong. I want to be able to make sure that this person I worked so hard to bring to my store is able to take away everything I stand for, then I'm guessing this is going to be worth 30, not 1. And I'm just going to try to work towards that. So I think that's where the difference comes between the two outlooks.
Great, and I'm noting the time, and I want to make sure we have time for questions. But so I think this is probably going to be my last closing question. So where does customer engagement apply on a merchant's journey for subscription excellence? I mean, that's what we're here for, is how are we a better subscription company? So where does customer engagement apply? Nelson, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to take that one. So I'm going to borrow a concept from Robbie Baxter. For those of you, if you haven't read any of her books, I would strongly recommend them. She has 2 of them, the Membership Economy and the Forever Transaction. Both fabulous books, easy read. She has a great writing style and a lot of credibility. So working with her, you could look at that. Working with her, we've established to sort of give a categories or phases that it's normal for subscription business to go through. And we sort of illustrate them as launch, scale, and lead. Right? Launch, scale, and lead to show where you are in your sort of not maturity model, because that sounds a little derogatory, but where you are in your evolution, if you will, right? And what we've done is that we've actually analyzed that engagement really can apply to all 3 of those phases, whether you're just beginning, and it's absolutely critical for you to measure engagement. And you get things like in industries like an OTT, it's super important for them to understand what it is that you're engaging with the content. Anybody who's a digital content creator, I'm giving examples, even if you're in the early nascent stages of your evolution, and that is in the launch. The scale phase, no brainer. In the lead phase, it's a no brainer. In scale, everybody's retooling, fixing the things that they didn't address in the launch phase for lack of investment capital or whatever, or just, hey, I'll deal with it in the next phase. By all means, you could do it there. So there's 2 examples of where it makes sense. Absolutely, without question, anybody or any companies in the lead phase, you've been in business for a while, you're constantly reinventing yourself. It's absolutely essential you do it there, because it is one of the key elements of addressing one of the biggest threats to companies that are in the lead phase: competitiveness. I'm one of the legacy brands, which is a good thing. You're a leader, but you're being sort of crowded out by competition. So it sounds like I'm kind of spreading it all across. The reality is all 3 could benefit, but the reality is that as you engage with companies like Vindicia and Redfast, and we talk through it, we'll very much tell you whether it makes sense in the phase that you're in. But I've seen examples of companies that are working with us across all 3 of those phases where it makes sense.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the thing that was going through my mind is, as you were talking, Nelson, is also this very sort of literal problem that I think most online businesses have today. We've all seen this shift away from very busy homepages to really minimalist, very focused, very simple, straightforward messages, right? Every one of us is seeing that change happen. Here's why engagement becomes important for you to understand in light of this movement. You no longer can throw everything in the kitchen sink at your homepage, right? You're gonna have to pick. What if you're wrong about what you pick? Right, that's your homepage. That's basically, do the math on how much of your activity happens because of what you did on your homepage versus pages that are deeper. And this is where this thing matters even more. And the ability to go minimal and be focused with a message on your homepage is a reflection of the clarity of understanding that you have about your value proposition at that point in time. It could be a Black Friday thing, it could be temporal, it could be a long-term thing, it could be that you're about cycling, going back to the example from, it could be any one of a number of things. It could be that you have a special announcement. It could be any number, but that clarity of your own understanding of why you're here on the homepage from the business standpoint, and the first thing the user sees about you is why customer engagement is so important. You know, and when you see these really busy things with 1,000 things going on, you know that, you know, someone's not made up their mind as to, you know, they don't know which foot to lead with. And so they go, here's everything I got. Hopefully, good luck to you. Hopefully you find what you came for. And it can work. Nothing horribly wrong about it. I'm just saying that here's another reason why you don't want to be left behind, because there are other companies doing exactly that. They're able to clarify their purpose. They're able to clarify their USP. They're able to boil their essence down to a few things that are strategically placed in the exact right spot, doing the exact right thing, and is different. You know, Amazon's view for me is different than it is for you. So is Netflix's. So is every other big company in this thing. They have thousands of developers working on this stuff. You don't. And when you don't, your only choice is to look at technologies that can help give you that edge. Because if you don't, then you're always going to be, hey man, I'm number 17, you know, out of 500, and I'm feeling good about it. But there's a chance for you to have all the same tools like the big boys do that they've developed for themselves. But this is why it's important.
Yeah. Hey, Laura, can I just add one last comment to that? Because I think it's a great question. And if I'm sitting in this audience, I want to know, look, I can see myself, I'm in the launch phase or the scale phase. Again, I want to understand why would I need it? Let me just speak to you clearly. And that is, great business leaders are very clear of mission. They understand their priorities. They call it the commander's imperative. What are the top 3 things that I've got to do right in order to achieve the mission that I've set, right? So if your key objectives are things like trial conversions, I'm going to get them in, I'm going to give them a free trial, then it's essential that I do a high level of trial conversions, then engagement absolutely makes sense. By the way, you could be in the launch phase, right? If you're in the scale phase and you're going, hey, it's in my business plan, it's important that I increase usage and then start doing some upsells, engagement is absolutely critical to you executing on that objective, right? So again, it all goes back to what are the things that I'm trying to accomplish as part of my business plan, and this technology can face. It's got 6 high-level business outcomes that it drives. If one or more of those fits in there, engagement can bring value.
Yeah, I was thinking as I was listening to you all that, yeah, engagement would be necessary regardless of where you are in your business path. I mean, I can't think without engagement, you don't really have a business.
If not, you get dragged through broken glass, right? That's what I hear.
Or let a sleeping dog lie in a leaky bucket. It's not good. It's not good. Guys, you guys are great. I've got a couple questions I want to run past you, and again, wanting to be really cognizant of people's time. Questions come in. I'm concerned about consumer privacy. Do your engagement methods allow opt-out and customer anonymity?
Yeah. Easy question actually to answer. The short answer is no concerns on privacy, because again, as I said when we were talking about the anonymous user question, when you're trying to understand behavior versus person or persona, you're in the clear. Because we're not singularly aiming at someone. We're aiming at people who are experiencing the same kinds of things with respect to your site. When you treat everybody who has not understood cycling the same way, you don't have a privacy concern. When you try to follow that person around the internet, you have a privacy concern. We are talking about a first-party technology, which means this is by you on your site, only on your site and apps, and for the benefit of the customer when they are in your site or on your site, excuse me. Privacy is, and most importantly, when you're looking at what the person is doing and where you have opportunities to serve them better and responding to that, that does not trigger privacy concerns.
I knew I would miss that mute button at some point. It's inevitable. I'm a service provider with tiered plan offerings. Can you give me an idea, when is it okay to upsell higher tiers to very active customers? Any guidance on that?
So you want to go, or I can, either which way?
Go ahead, Rajeev. I'll piggyback on that.
Well, look, I mean, this is also an easy question, which is that when you understand how a customer is using the service and seeing what they're taking away and what they're not taking away from you, you have a great opportunity to actually see maybe there's a plan out there in your lineup that is a better fit for them than the one that they're on, right? So let's take a very simple example, a mobile plan. Let's say that, you know, I have 1,000 minutes of calling on my mobile plan, and I don't know who calls anybody anymore anyway, but let's just say I'm using it a lot, right? Let's say that I'm at 800, 900, 950, and you can see that as I bump closer to the limit, I'm becoming mindful that I have a limit and I'm trying to sort of adjust. But, you know, here's a great chance for you to say, hey, you know, how about you get the 1,200 minute plan? And you have a couple of options here, right? You can say, I'll give it to you at the same price as the 1,000 minute plan for the first year, right? You see a lot of companies employing this tactic for the first quarter, first half month, first half year, first year, because this is now you expressing empathy to say, look, maybe there's some circumstances where your usage is higher right now. You know, let me not sort of jump right in and grab all the money there is with that situation. Let me just at least put one foot forward and sort of meet you and say, I understand, and here's what I can do for you. Don't be afraid of going over the limit, right? That's one case where you go, I'm an SP, I'm a service provider. Here's something I can do for my customer, because you're not in the short-term business. You're not in the business of keeping the customer for another 3 months. You're in the business of keeping the customer for 15 years, right? So you got to decide at what point do you step in, right? So that's a great example. Another one is where you see cross-pollination possibilities, right? Cross-sell opportunities. I have a voice plan, I have a data plan, but I'm spending most of my data watching movies and television shows. Well, maybe you have a movie and television package that actually might add to the benefit of this user now that you understand this about them. And maybe they can now save with a triple play or something else. And companies are doing this right now, right? Companies do this, except I feel most of it is being done by SPs on sort of a blind basis. You bought one from me, why don't you buy two? You bought two from me, why don't you buy three? And I think there's a much more meaningful way to attack this problem than is being attacked today.
Yeah, look, and at the end of the day, I think the longer your relationship is with that subscriber, that consumer. I mean, I think back to my life, and I'm willing to consider upgrades of any service that I've been with for a while, especially if there's new content, new capabilities, new catalogs that are being offered, by all means. And I just want another level of convenience. Maybe I want to be able to watch it on any and all platforms versus just my smart TV. I think about satellite providers. I mean, my father-in-law has a boat, has a small little vacation home, and has his own home, right? That would definitely be a premium offering that makes sense because the way that he's consuming the service, it lends itself to that. And so anyway, it's common sense type of stuff, but I think if you have anything of value that could increase the level of enjoyment of what you're delivering, why not? But just do it in a very simple way. And if you're doing it in a smart way, you could do it with one click with context.
Gentlemen, this has been a joy. I hope our viewers have enjoyed it as well. And again, we will be sending out a copy of this recording if you would like to share it with your coworkers. And I really have enjoyed it. It was great. Rajeev, you just keep on using metaphors, my friend.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.